19. Guys, welcome to a live show. And as always, since I'm on the headphones and you guys are really hearing the monitors, someone let me know if you're getting a good audio signal there. And welcome everyone. Shannon, Lyle, Hillary, Cats, Person, Chicken Patty, 13, Deborah Harry, Sally Knowles, Casual Preparedness, Laura Ryder, I see. And a lot of you guys, I see Alabama, Mississippi, Gulf Coast, Texas, really represented by the South here, but we have friends all over the world, guys, that have listened to these videos for about 7 years. And we got another Mississippian going to be our guest tonight, Matthew from TruthNotFictionMatters.com. And let me see if that's him. Give me 1 second. Hold on 1 minute. All right, guys, I think that's Matthew calling in now. So let me see if I can pull his audio in. Sounds great. Thank you. Matthew, are you there?
Hear me?
Let's see. I can hear you great. Let me see if I'm going to get some opinion from our folks out there. Guys, let me know if Matthew needs to come down a little bit, what we need to do there. I appreciate it very much. Matthew, you working tonight?
Oh, yeah. It's another one of them days.
Are you in that period after the floods kind of letting down that you're really getting a lot of ship traffic through that New Orleans area?
Yes, sir. Just am having a kind of a hard time hearing you, boy. I don't know if it's on my end or.
Okay, Matt, let me get just a little closer to this. Let me change one thing, guys. Hang in there with me a moment. Now, Matt, is that any better?
Yeah, it's a little bit better.
I'm going to bring my volume up here just a little, right there. I've got you tapped in through the phone line. It's a little different. I'm just kind of bringing everything closer together here, guys. Again, okay. You got five on me and five on Matthew. We're watching the chat, guys. So let me know what you need. And as far as volume or echo or anything else like that, I appreciate it because I'm just hearing the monitors on my headphones. But Matthew, you say you're busy?
Oh, yeah, we're pretty busy. The river's dropped down probably 5 or so foot, but it's still busy out here. We're holding in right now on a ATB.
What is that, Matt?
Right here above a place called Plains over above around St. Charles Parish.
Okay. I got you. I'm not real familiar with Plains. I know where New Orleans East and Lake Pontchartrain and downtown is, and south down towards Buras in that area, but I can't place Plains right now. But are you above New Orleans or below New Orleans? As far as
I'm about 145 miles above New Orleans.
Oh, okay. I got you. They've got you guys moving, don't you? Man.
Oh, yeah.
I hear you. Well, Matthew, you kind of keeping up with things the same way that most of us are. And I've got a lot of information to go over. But right now, China and the trade war between us and China that led into this currency war is it's kind of like a storm on the horizon because Hong Kong is protesting. Have you seen that? And
just I've been covering it for the last, not trying to toot my own horn, if you will, but I've been covering this for the last 6 or 7 months.
Oh, yeah. I knew you had. Listen, what they're talking about in the headlines today is the destabilization of the Chinese banks, and that it's the Hong Kong protest if they continue to get larger, which it looks like in tonight's headlines they are, then you're going to have destabilization in the banking system and in the workforce system and everything else. And if, on the opposite hand, if China attacks from the mainland, you're going to have the same thing. And China took over their largest bank today. That's 3 now, but they had number 2 and number 3 that they had to step in, and they got the largest one today, if I'm not mistaken, either late last night. It depends on universal time, but they just acquired, in other words, stepped in and took over their bank to stop it from going down, more than likely. And in the headlines I've got pulled up here on the screen, they're talking about in Zero Hedge tonight, is China hoarding food, gold, and other commodities in anticipation of a global collapse, Matt? And that's what they're talking about. You know, we've seen them buying gold, them and Russia, 5 or 6 years, real heavily. And really for longer than that, because if I'm not mistaken, you guys remember when everybody was advertising, we buy gold, every pawn shop, everything, everywhere you looked, they were buying gold. And then someone was buying it all from them. And that gold was ending up going to other nations. And, you can't help but think about Joe Biden and his involvement in China and his involvement in getting this gold shipped out of the U.S. and out of some of the other nations into China and Russia's hands. But Matt, like you said, you've been keeping up on this. What do Biden is telling China to wait till after Trump is out of office. Kerry's telling Russia to wait till Trump's out of office. And if you saw the video today, at the end of the video, one of the guests that's in the money markets and deals with Chinese here in the U.S. was talking about, they say they're assuring him that Biden will be the president. Did you see that?
Oh, yeah. Well, the thing about it is just like the headline I covered today, China sells most U.S. treasuries in nearly 2.5 years. The headline that Reuters talked about. You've got this Russia angle as well. Russia and China has been for over 2 years now getting off the U.S. Treasury and funding the ruble and the Chinese yuan off of precious metals like gold, silver, and other commodities for some time now. China's also been hoarding different supplies as far as grain, wheat and other food supplies for over 10 years now. I was mentioning that almost a year ago, and that's why you're now seeing people are all of a sudden shocked. I did a little digging 2 days ago. That's why they're less reliant on our farming, and they're starting to, notice they've backed off of food production export-wise out of the U.S., trying to raise their production over there and also their exports from other countries. And that's why you see President Xi, that's why when Trump did this original deal, if you will, trade deal, China didn't like it at all because it made them liable, basically, Jesse. And they haven't been held accountable or liable for years. Trump's he's kind of changing that. And you're seeing it now with the more tariffs coming out. And it's going to be real interesting. They just lowered their currency again over in China.
Right.
To unstabilize our markets. All the cabal and the Luciferian controllers have shut down. I talked about this last night a little bit in depth on the Patriot News. Some of them didn't understand what I was saying, but you know, you're starting to see a demise in the production take effect now that we've seen in the last administration, and even to be even in going back as far as Reagan's administration, believe it or not, Jesse. I mean, that's how long we've been without manufacturing. And China's using the angle of they could produce stuff a lot cheaper than any other country in the world. They can mass produce it because they've got cheap labor cost. Yeah, it's a dangerous situation that we find ourselves in, that's for sure. And it's going to be interesting to see not only the effects of the global markets being dictated by China, Russia, even Iran. You know, Iran's still selling oil over to the countries over in Europe and even Germany. I don't know if you saw that.
Right. I knew they were going to be doing it. You've got too many people in Europe that hate the U.S., whether terrorists or not, and you've got players like China and Russia involved. There's no way to stop it. But you're right about one thing, Matthew, is it's affecting China greatly. They are stopping imports from U.S. as far as like soybeans. And last year I think we had just made a deal for them to buy a lot of soybeans that Europe was refusing to buy at that time behind the European trade deal. Well, so he made a deal with Europe. Then they started to back out. And when they backed out, he made a deal with China. Now, China, because of the tariffs and all Trump is trying to do is to balance it. But they can't deal with that. And because their trade they had two things in mind in China. And by the way, it's crippling them. The U.S. is dealing with it. We're keeping up with the markets pretty close, Matthew. Last few days, we've seen some we put up live closing and openings of the market when China started devaluating their currency, I think on the 5th maybe. And so we've taken hits, but we bounced back without any major problems. Now, we have seen in our markets, and guys, if you look at the analytics on it, a lot of the uptick that we've seen come back from that 700-point drop was from companies buying back their own shares. Just to let you know, there's charts that show that on these company buybacks, and they're up parallel with the rise in our markets back. But China's now has had to, in this last 4 or 5 days, now has claimed and took over their largest bank. Their stocks have not pulled up at the same levels. We were both very close at around 25, and now we're ahead of them on that game. And like you said, Matthew, was it today that they devaluated again?
Oh, yeah. I think you're going to continue to see the devaluation of their currency because they know the effects it's going to have on our markets in the stock market over here. The Dow, the S&P, even on the NASDAQ, when you look at the technology firms that have consequently betted everything on Chinese production, like Apple, for example. And that's why you got these cronies like Biden, Kerry, and so many other folks that were in the, Obama administration that made deals. Where have we seen that before, Jesse? Well, let's just wait till I get rich, then we can talk further. Remember 2012 when President Obama told the Prime Minister of Russia that?
Oh yeah, I saw that. He thought it was a kind of an off mic. They thought deal. They were sitting beside each other at that meeting.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I remember that, Matt. I sure do. And that's what, we had this shadow government as soon as Trump got elected, going around the planet, telling everybody to just wait. We have an insurance policy. And Matthew, that goes to the end of my video that I did today, guys. If you haven't seen it, check it out. It's to where we've got, Trump, and I've got a report pulled up on the back here that Trump is saying that he hopes that Biden lies his way in and gets to be his challenger as far as the Democratic candidate. He said because he is not all here, and it's going to be easy to slam him. But in Matthew, in the video, I talked about why are they using Biden of all the people to, and look, each one of these candidates, none of them have many votes. They never will. But the mainstream media will prop up their favorite mockingbird talking head, the ones that will open the borders. Biden said he would today in this Iowa deal, said we have room for 2 million more. We can get them in here in just a few days, no problem. Just elect me, and you won't see any more ICE events happening like we saw here in Mississippi, Matthew. But if the video was talking about was Biden and his power and his son's power and carrying them, and we've heard word of over the last few years that there was trade secrets, military trade secrets, traded and sold to China for deals. So here we have a presidential candidate running, Joe Biden, that his hands are so deep into the Chinese money, and they bought him out so deep that the Chinese are saying that Trump won't win. Last time it was mainstream media. Remember, no way Trump could win it, really. And so we saw what, but here I didn't feel like they were talking about a legitimate poll beating Trump. I don't know where exactly what level I want to go with that, but it didn't sound good because what's at stake? Biden, and who allowed Biden to do all of his deeds? Obama.
And right, you're talking about Hunter Biden.
Hunter Biden, that's right, his son.
You know, a lot of that technology that he was investing in, that his dad was behind, was with Apple, from what I'm hearing.
That's right.
And other technology, the same chip manufacturers, you know, the young lady that got caught being sold secrets not too long ago. The other, not to change the subject, I want to point it out before I forget, the other thing to keep an eye on, something else I've been covering, is the Silk Road project between India and Pakistan. China's very much involved in that as well.
Well, Matthew, that is exactly why Trump gave the nod to India to step in to Kashmir. It wasn't for any other reason than that, in my opinion, because of the encroachment. And if you look at India on the map, you got Russia on one side and China on the other, you know, as far as big powers. But what do you think about that? That's just my opinion. Like I said, that it could inflame the situation there with Pakistan and China and Russia. But, you know, we know it's been a place where they've had, you know, suicide bombings, attacks, and things like that because they've really taken over the Kashmir region. And they lifted the autonomy of it this week. And they really went in there. I saw images of, you know, after they cut the internet and everything like that. Some people got some videos out, and it was just troops lining every street, almost, marching through every area, every small alleyway, really overtaking it. But Matthew, what do you think about that move into Kashmir?
Well, strategically, I think it could be a powder keg. If you look at all the money that's been spent combined by Russia and China to build that economic trade belt, if you will, as far as infrastructure, and also militarily to move their military assets from one side of the spectrum to the other, it all falls into that Silk Road project. We're talking biblical wartime infrastructure. And for, you know, it's the same thing with the South China Sea area.
Right.
China cannot afford to lose any of that infrastructure, just like we saw in Venezuela. They got to, you know, they're banking big to get. There's another headline that came out. China has now reached an arm out. You know, all this stuff that we were talking about just a year ago is coming to fruition. China has now reached out to Maduro and willing to assist on the old abandoned oil fields now in Venezuela. No one's really talking about that. But Jesse, that's huge.
Yeah,
that will totally eliminate their need to export any oil from Saudi Arabia or the U.S.
Yep. And Matthew, listen, that is so critical, what you're talking about now. And folks, the reason why is there's an article out today, and I think it's, let's see, it would be, anyway, it's in Zero Hedge, and they do a lot of market news as well as truth news in Zero Hedge, if you watched it, guys. But they're talking about that shale oil, which is the fracking basically in the United States, is almost at its peak. And a lot of people I know have left the industry. But if that's so, then we haven't really been told that much. But the industry is talking about it now. They're almost running very low when the price of oil is down at around 52 or so. And so with China and Russia moving, the whole Venezuelan oil thing was known by all the major players, us, China, Russia, and others. So their move, knowing that puts a whole new scope into it. But knowing that we were running out, they're trying, the military industrial complex has to have petroleum. And a nation just to plant food and have people get to work and all transportation, they have to have petroleum. So Matthew, makes a hell of a lot of sense there. And do you think that you would know more about it than most? Do you think the U.S. has been stockpiling oil, knowing that they know, we had Rex Tillerson in there. They know the situation.
Well, excuse me, not only stockpiling and storing caches, if you will, for as you just mentioned, the military complex. They're also been doing since President Trump has been in, drilling in other strategic areas like Alaska.
Right.
Also in the GOM. A lot of folks don't know that, but deep water exploration's picked up big time. The writing's on the wall.
Right.
The geopolitical stage is rapidly changing. And the other thing to point out amidst of what we're on fire tonight, Jesse, but if you've seen the recent explosion over in Russia with the ammo dump,
right,
several folks killed. Now the supersonic incident,
right,
really makes you think what's at play here.
Well, and radiation meters are going on.
Serious times.
The radiation meters are going off over there, Matthew. There's in that area now. There's reports that
you're starting to see an uptick in Syria again. If you notice, you're starting to see the headlines, which I've been watching for the past 2 days. It's the boogeyman trick again. ISIS is building again. Al Qaeda,
right?
The Taliban,
right?
It's the same playbook, Jesse. And the deep state's never going to quit. The Democrats are never going to quit. Just here as of recently with these mass shootings, guns are the problems. Guns. That's what they continue to showcase as their narrative. Well, I'll tell you what the problem is the removal of God and all these Hollywood and games that are out now infecting our children. You see the notes now left behind of this satanic Luciferian worshiper, young man out of Dayton, Ohio.
Right.
That's a product of a poor upbringing, if you ask me. And that's what you get when you have these new types of programs in schools now and a removal of God and et cetera. That's what you're going to get. And that's what they want. And we're going to continue to see it, I'm afraid.
That's exactly right, Matthew. They and now the FBI is saying they can't unlock his phone. But there was what's unreal to me about the outcry, and everyone's blaming Trump. And for some reason, well, I know why, but AOC and that entire bunch, the squad and many of the other Democrats, are calling for Congress to, come back to the swamp. And you know why? I mean, why let a something like a mass killing go to waste? And before mainstream media can move on to the next phase, next news cycle, AOC and that bunch is screaming, "Come back now! We've got to put in legislation over the gun control things." And at the same time, Matthew, I think I mentioned this, guys, in the video, and Matthew, you and I may have talked about it, that is Hollywood screaming, and which I don't care about, except that mainstream media is an echo chamber for it. And we do take up for our president. By the way, guys, sometimes if my videos seem a little sarcastic, sometimes that's just to burn up some AI bots. If you've seen the last few videos, a lot of people got upset with me. Just understand what I do when I call Trump a deplorable or call you a deplorable. And when you understand how the bots work on social media, you'll get it. So don't get upset with me about that. But Matthew, they are, why let a situation like this go to waste? That's what's in their mind. And I have no doubt that somewhere in some of this democratic mess that we have in this nation, these shooters came out of that bunch. And here's another thing. When they made 66 million last weekend off of the new Rock movie, that whatever the name of it is, I was reading the headline. I didn't watch the movie, and it's all guns and shooting. Not only that, there's a new movie coming out about
The Hunt.
The Hunt. All right. The Hunt's killing deplorables, guys. And they had to remove the ads, but they're not taking down the movie. And so we're inciting violence, right? Trump is in, and they've got people hunting down people, deplorables, and killing them on a new show. I don't know if it's a one-time show, a movie, or what it's going to be, but look at what they're doing now. Someone's got to step up and say, "Hold the hell up, Hollywood!" And the Democrats and mainstream media. Look at who's really pushing gun violence. The same people that are screaming to impeach Trump. Is there in Matthew said it was biblical, and the devil.
Again, sir?
You said that it was biblical, and when you talk about he knows he has but a short time running back and forth in the rage, that's what we're seeing.
Oh, absolutely, without a doubt. I covered that movie. It's supposed to come out 27th September, and it's just ironic. But I do like the ending of that movie, oh boy, because the folks that are being hunted flip the script, and it comes back to bite them full circle. So I don't know if that was a last-minute change or what, but I covered the preview video. It's about 1:30. It's unbelievable in how subtle they convey this movie preview. But, a lot of folks have been shocked by this. I'm not shocked at all. You see these movies such as The Purge and
right.
all these other violent movies out of Hollywood. Well, that's where your main Luciferian doctrine zombies derive out of, is Hollywood.
Which is
There's a lot of them that's going to be falling like dominoes when the true story comes out about this Jeffrey Epstein character.
Yeah.
I'm watching, I'm looking, as you state, sometimes, we're the watchers, if you will, watching all this stuff. There's so much going on right now. It's almost a 24/7 job at the pace that we're currently at. But I'm also watching these Republicans, these rhinos, if you will, that are siding with the Democrats now in conveying more red flag laws, for instance, and also removal of Founding Father Constitution and Bill of Rights provisions. They're wanting to do away with the Second Amendment. It's a very dangerous time in the country, and the truth needs to be put out there. Folks, they're not going to be happy with just the black, evil assault rifles. They want the removal of all weapons. Make no mistake, and me as a veteran, speaking for all the other veterans, it's okay to send an 18-year-old overseas and fight a cabal war, but the Democrats, if the truth's known, like we saw in the Obama administration, they want the folks with PTSD, removal of all rights to hold and carry weapons. That's what they want. Well,
Right.
Jesse, you know as well as I do, who's going to stand up and defend this country alongside all the law-abiding country boy of sorts, patriots, whenever this country gets attacked? It's going to be the veterans, 80% of them.
That's right. That's right. Patriots, veterans, everybody's just sick of it. Now, Matthew, on that subject, I've got it pulled up on screen that from today in a Breitbart article says Donald Trump, Republicans can lead the charge on expanding background checks. Now, it's called an expanding background check because, Matthew, here in our state in Mississippi, you're from here, I've been to gun shows all my life, but it's always been since I was an adult. Background checks. You give them your information. They run it through the computer. You come back. It's I think a FBI or FTA check, and then you're either approved or not. And so an expanding background check, from what I understand, and I do see in the tone that Trump has come out with, and you and I talked about this on the phone, that first day after the shootings, he came up to the White House and read off the teleprompters, and it was talking about red flag laws, right? Now, he's backed off of that narrative, and because he kind of had to come out as a shock thing and try to back off everybody from saying they were already blaming him. They still are. But now with the difference in the background check, they're saying now what, again, here in our state, mine in your state, Matthew, isn't there background checks been here for a long time already?
They're I've got a mixed approach with that, I guess. I mean,
well, what they're talking about on the expanded part would just be to further. They're saying that the police and people like that are not putting all the information in. They're not listing any things that have happened in your life. If you've thrown a fit or had to kick somebody out of somewhere or something, you might be violent. That the expanded background is part of that. Maybe trying to get more police agencies and I guess psychiatric wards involved. I don't know, but again, that's going to kind of tie in the red flag part of the expanded background. I don't know.
Well, the red flag laws I don't like at all. I've been publicly known for that because they just recently had a gentleman who lost his life.
Right.
If you heard about that, it was a veteran, and his neighbor reported him as a risk under the red flag law. Well, there was a police officer that was confronted and shots were fired. Turns out this was an illegitimate claim that the neighbor made. I just see a lot of problems, but the ultimate goal for the left and all those provocateurs that are behind this red flag, which is now passed through 11 states. A lot of people don't even know that. Jesse, they think this is just something that they've just came up with and they're proposing. That's totally could be further from the truth.
Right.
Some of these laws are in effect.
They've been in
effect.
As
we speak.
Yeah, they've been in effect. You've got 7 or 8 states, maybe, Matt. Matt, I saw a chart on that about which states already have that red flag, and it's every one. You almost can read some type of a tragic situation involved. Someone's mad at somebody, calls the police, and then there's a confrontation where someone gets killed when they want their guns. And it's always the guy that was snitched on for whatever reason. He may just made someone mad, or they're jealous. And that's what we're up against. It's like the Chinese and what they're doing, Matthew. And that's why Trump, I think, was attacking social media so much. But they are going to rely, the left, I agree, Matthew, they want every gun. They want us to become another London stand, another Paris, France, another Canada, to where we cannot defend ourselves. And what is so ironic about the entire situation is the Democrats rise on the minority vote. Let the Hispanics in, and let's infiltrate millions from India and other nations, and let's, as they rode on the backs of the African Americans for years and years, and then they get the vote and do nothing with them. And then you got the Democrats like Biden and that bunch dealing with China, and China is enslaving the Muslims, but the Muslims are infiltrated here, but they're voting Democrat. It just doesn't. I mean, how stupid can you get? They don't look at. Do they not see the news of the in the gay pride deal? What's going to happen when Islam takes over here? They're going to be cutting off heads and throwing you off buildings, but you're going to vote for the Democrats that are going to let them walk in the damn door. That is just stupid as it gets. But, what can you expect?
Well, the problem is, Jesse, is no one learns from their history. If you look at the gun laws in the past, from the 30s to the 80s, especially the one in 68, as Cody mentioned, I talked to Cody last week briefly, Cody Snodgrass. If you look at the 1968 revision of gun control in this country, it's worded almost exactly like the gun control policies that Adolf Hitler instituted, actually, when he was sworn in as chancellor. Then he got away with murdering his competition and became the Fuhrer. You look at all these countries in the past, Stalin took the guns, Hitler took the guns, Mussolini, he took the guns. I say this for a very good reason. Being able to bear arms is not a privilege, as the left wants you to believe. It's a right, God-given right, and it says right there, shall not be infringed, because the founding fathers knew what would happen if we lost that right. The real fangs of the Luciferian controllers and the cabal will once then show themselves once they unarm this country. It's not real hard to figure out what's going on here, folks.
Not at all, Matt. Not at all. You mentioned Hitler, and that's exactly what we see through the mainstream media and the attacks, calling everyone racist and deplorable. You're degrading an entire group of people the same way that Hitler did. And then that way the public felt, just as they're doing at Mitch McConnell's house, the right to attack and kill. He led that censorship. He led the making this group evil. In this case, the European Jews and anybody that went against him. And now that's what we see. And they were racist, is what he said. Now that's all we hear from the Democrats. Everything that they don't agree with is racist, deplorable. And you've got politicians calling out more protests every day. Pick up pitchforks and torches and attack, kill Mitch McConnell standing outside his house. And then when he puts it up on Twitter locks his account down until today, after the entire Republican National Convention removed every ad from Twitter they had, and a lot of other people. But that is how deep it is, guys. This broadcast, I don't know how long this will be up, Matthew, to be honest with you. It may stay up, but it's getting to that point now. And there's an interesting article about Trump is almost got his executive order or presidential order written out on he's going to possibly put the FCC and FTC, Federal Trade Commission, in charge of social media. I read part of the document today. And so will there be a quick purge from people like us, or will they start to back off to alleviate pressure I don't know, but something is about to happen, and Trump's got it planned before the election. But now this document, it it has been passed around in quite a few hands inside the White House. A lot of people have read it, and they've kind of taken things in and taken things out. But I think he realizes now that regardless of his position, he's going to lose and be taken out by Silicon Valley in their censorship, and Mockingbird in their censorship, and the illegal votes. So he's going to make a move. I just don't know what the reaction will be, but we're seeing it in the panic cries of deplorables and attack and kill. And today, New York, or maybe yesterday afternoon, the Democrats in New York voted not to make it a felon for throwing water on the police. That is.
How about that? How about, speaking of New York, you'll love this. How about the rabbi that came out and basically said he wants to ban the New Testament in the Bible? Did you hear about that?
I didn't see that, but I doubt nothing.
Yep. Said the New Testament's unethical, not biblical.
Yep.
On and on.
Yep. That's that's their narrative. They've got a Luciferian doctrine to bring in. But if you remember in the Albert Pike letter, it was after a great war, to where nations were weakened and brought to their knees, and all the armies were weakened and brought to their knees, and then they could bring in their doctrine. But
I'll tell you what, I'm of the doctrine of George Washington, old boy. I'd rather die on my feet than down on my knees. So let the chips fall where they may. I don't want to get you any trouble on your channel, but I just
no, man. We wouldn't.
It is.
If I was really worried about it, we wouldn't be doing it, Matthew. In the last couple of videos, and guys, there's a couple of videos that were on YouTube that were political last week or two. They are on Patreon, but they have gone anywhere. If you hadn't looked, they're there. Vimeo also. But Matthew,
if you see an '84 Chevrolet on 38 and a half with a "Don't tread me" tag on the front of it, that's me. Don't shoot me when I come and see you, old boy.
No, man. The German Shepherds and all, they let me know my driveway's not quite an eighth of a mile, and you can't see the house. So I know I have 2 early warning systems.
But the left ain't hard to figure out. They're the same ones that convey they want the children, save the children of the illegals, but yet they get all their funding from the abortion clinics. And how fitting over there at Mitch McConnell's house, supposedly, if the children can't sleep, you ain't going to sleep, they say.
Yep.
Well, let's just stab him in the heart. Well, that's just really kind of backwards. I mean, they're supposedly for nonviolence against guns, and they say something like that. I mean, it's almost laughable anymore when you see the narratives out of these folks. Well,
Hillary said resist, Matthew. When her and Bill came out, remember? And she said, and before that, she had fussed at Trump for about a month when she said, "Will you concede to losing the presidency if you lose? Will you, agree to that?" And he said, "I don't know." Because they've been talking about crooked votes and everything like that. And he said, "I don't know." And then she blasted him, and mainstream media blasted him because, he will not accept a legal election, the results of a legal election. And what does she do? Throw a fit, call for resistance, send ambassadors all over the world, tell them to just wait till Trump is killed or put out of office or impeached or both, and hung and stabbed in the heart. And then we'll keep on selling you your uranium in China. You can come on and finish taking over.
I've always thought that, our enemies would love for a war of division, if you will, to kick off in this country. Because think about that. Not a lot of people have put that together, but
sure, that's why they got Antifa going 10 days and set into El Paso. But from what I hear from some folks I know in Texas, Antifa is not going to like getting their butts kicked, and that's what's going to happen.
Right. Well, you got Antifa Joe Biggs, which I talk to him from time to time. He used to be on the InfoWars, but he's going over there on the 17th in Portland. They're going to have a 1,000+ person rally. And do you know that the FBI has called him multiple times? They're going to greet him at the airport. And no one has questioned Antifa. They're going to show up with slingshots, claiming they're going to even have an AED if they can get away with it. They're going to slingshot deplorables with ball bearings. But the FBI has yet to question them. I've got a lot of questions with that.
Yep.
What the heck's going on here?
I don't know. I don't know why they haven't already been declared a terrorist organization. What are they waiting on? Is it, that doesn't make any sense, does it, Matt? Now, another thing I'd like to say to the Proud Boys and Joe Biggs, you guys just come down south and let them have the down West Coast with the libtards. Let them fight among themselves. Come down here with the Patriots. And because Matthew, when we covered the Trump rally here in Jackson, before he was elected, him and Nigel Farage and Truss Sessions came, there was no protesters in the parking lot,
I would
inside.
Absolutely
none.
Agree with you. And I've got a friend of mine, he works with me, a co-worker, and he's deeply entrenched in the South. I would tell everyone to come down south unless they try to take our guns away, and that would be the last place I would recommend you being, was down here in the South, oh boy, because it's not going to be a good place to be.
Well, Matthew, it's just patriot. We're patriots, man. We love our country. We don't want to hurt anybody, but just don't step on us. Don't tread on us. And
That's right.
And they think, see, what's happened is the rest of the world gave in and let them take their guns. That's why they hate the U.S. That's because we're the last stand of freedom on the planet. Who else? Who else is there? Who else? Name somebody. I can't name them.
Well, you've got the UK, Australia, now New Zealand. You'd be amazed how many folks that I've talked to, some in fact even that were involved with the Yellow Vest riots, are very envious of the United States and the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and how steadfast we've stood for our founding father rights. And I can tell you this from firsthand knowledge, from talking to a couple of folks over in Europe, they very much regret, Jesse, giving up their rights to bear arms. They see the problems it's caused from doing that.
Yeah.
I just don't see it happening.
No, Matthew, what happened, we were, regardless of what people think of Trump, if Hillary would have won it, we would already be on that downward spiral of Europe. It's gun control and fighting. The war would have been over. But at least this way, if there's a civil war, I think we have most of the government on our side, not the deep state government, but I think they're not going to have time now. There's things in this planet, or China, Russia, Venezuela, Iran, Iraq, that Syria, Turkey, that are coming to kind of a clash. And I don't think they're going to have time with all the things that are happening at one time to concentrate on just our guns. But they're never going to get them all. As a matter of fact, when they started screaming that right after the shootings in El Paso and in Ohio, ammunition and guns were bought off the shelves, Matthew.
Oh, yeah, I heard that as well. In fact, I had a buddy of mine go get some for me.
Well, if you're going to have a precious metal to barter with, there's only one, if you ask me. And if you got plenty. But and that's it. Protection. You can hunt and you can protect your family. And you can stand up against tyrants. Isn't that in the what the founding fathers was talking about, tyranny?
absolutely. And, you know, I'm a big fan of burying coffee and lead from, you know, I've got several stashes no matter what direction I go. So I'm ready, old boy. Well, I don't mind saying it.
You know, Matthew,
set you free, right?
That's right. And, you know, none of us want this to happen because we know, and people, you know, one of the reasons I watch the stock market, Matthew, is because it's simply an indicator. I'm not invested in the stock market. It's an indicator of global collapse. And when you have that and the banks go down, then you're going to start seeing people go out of business and bankruptcies and food shortages. And it's a sign to be prepared. That's my only involvement in the stock market, is that I know it is it's a canary in the coal mine. When that thing hits, you better be ready. It's just like Katrina coming in. The next day, you don't have electricity and water for a few weeks. You know, you're in the dark, and you know, and so the UK, someone mentioned it earlier, and I think I have the article that I can pull up, guys. Hold on just a minute. The UK, Matthew, did you see where they were blacked out today? I don't know.
Yeah, I think I saw that.
Let's see, guys. I'm gonna pull it up on screen right there. And I didn't know that their infrastructure was so weak. And maybe if they can get out of that Euro deal, they can gain some of their oil and things like that back. But it's pulled up now. I don't know how many millions, but it was most of the major cities where people were walking out of the underground. And it says London blackout blamed on dropping wind and natural gas power. So natural gas reminds me, in that area, you don't have to go far to where you're over into the Middle East and Syria and the Silk Road pipelines and things like that Germany has been looking at so heavily. But London has been squeezed off, and now we've got Bojo and Boris Johnson working with Nigel Farage, and these attacks could be coming out of the non-Brexit EU group. But now the way they got power back, which was kind of amazing to me, was they had to let their hydrothermal pressure build back up enough, Matt, to kick in some of the relays. But I'm talking about they just shut it down. And, they haven't said anything blew up that I know about. They just lost natural gas power, and the wind was dropping. So we saw it with Venezuela, the power. When the grid goes down, Matthew, people are going to freak out.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and you might get mad at me later on, but I'm going to go ahead and tell everybody this. Both Jesse and I offer products. We don't do it for any reason. We do it to help all of you. I mean, Jesse, you got great deals on Preparedness meals, the Berkey filter, wait. Great invention you came out with. It wasn't just for you. It was to help everybody out there.
Hold on before I lose my sponsor. We're not Berkey dealers. We're Alexa Pure.
That's Alexa Pure.
Yeah, don't get me kicked out. Hey, listen, Matthew, I don't mind you doing that at all, because a lot of people are pushing silver and gold, and I've talked about this, and the Bible tells us in Ezekiel 7, don't do it. It'll be cast into the streets because you can't eat it. You'll be tricked. But you help our channel, you help Matthew and his friends, but you help your family. Matthew, I've gotten enough in the different areas to where if you can defend your territory, you can eat. It's not down to if you have supplies. It's just, can you move and shoot and move and communicate? That's going to be a problem there, but it's not going to be a bigger problem with a lot of the listeners here and the people that country folks and things like that, or people that they know, they're aware and they're tough and they know how to live off the land. But there's going to be so many city people that are when HBO goes off and they can't watch The Hunt, Matthew, they're just going to be in blackness. The elevators are not going to work. They're going to shut down the bridges the way they did in New Orleans and Katrina. And it's going to be a zombie movie.
Oh, man. Once those folks can't play Angry Birds anymore, It's going to be chaotic, huh?
Hey, do you know, it's fun. We're laughing, guys, but it's real. It's a real deal. But Matthew, I was watching Lionel Nations a couple nights ago. He pops up on the screen when he goes, just like yours does. Go ahead, Matthew.
About that VHF, brother.
Go ahead, man. That's business. But anyway, on Lionel, do you need to catch a radio?
Oh no, that was somebody else calling. But that's just a life on a tugboat.
Yeah, man. I spend a lot of time not on a tugboat, but boats. Now, what I was saying, Lionel had talked about this a couple of nights ago. And I think he's from New York, lives in a big apartment building or whatever. But he said most of his neighbors never leave anymore. You know, everybody doesn't have cars. They got Uber, but they order in their food, their clothes, their meals, their shopping comes now to them. They're not, a lot of them never go out anymore. Those are the first casualties. Because they're
absolutely. And we're live right now, right?
Right.
We're live. Okay.
Yeah, we've got, and thank y'all, 396 people watching live right now, Matthew.
Well, let me give you the example of who I am, Jesse. You're dealing with country boys here. Trey, you gonna worry about the grid going down? Don't you know how to hunt?
Man, you know.
You ain't gonna worry about it. Not down here in this part of the country.
Hey, Matthew, there you go. There you go. You got. There you go.
This old boy I got with me, he kills deers every time he's home. He'll hang one out the window.
There you go.
Kill one just to process it for the sausage. So, you know, when we tell folks on this YouTube channel that we're country boys, Jesse, we're not kidding an inch.
Nope.
This old boy here with me, he's probably got about 3 freezers full of meat.
Yep.
You know, that's going to be an invaluable trait if something bad goes down.
Well, that and
live off the land.
That's why I said there's only going to be one precious metal, and it's called
Lima Echo Alpha Delta.
Exactly. And if you have more than you'll ever need, then it's the best barter you'll ever have, because they can go hunt with that bullet. And there will be a premium shotgun shell or slug or buckshot or 30-06. It'll be a premium barter. But if you want something to kick back on, get rid of your gold and silver. Stock up on food. And as Matthew said, the only precious metal that will matter. But Matthew, you know, we have a lot between the folks that know me and know you, and the folks you know and know all around our channels of YouTube and other platforms. There's a lot of people that listen, but overall, guys, we're a small percentage. And I realized that when I went to DC back in Operation Spring, when Obama was president. The truthers are a very small percentage overall. And so if you think everyone's going to be on the same playing field, when it hits the fan, everyone's really wrong, because even your own family members that won't listen or voted for Hillary or whatever, they're going to be caught off guard. And now I'm not worried about myself, Matthew. You know, I have a solar power also. When the grid goes down, I've got my stuff set up, air conditioning, everything. But you got to be able to move and communicate. So even though you have that in one location, then that location may not always be safe. Matthew, you know.
That's right. That's why I kind of derived my invention of the, you know, folks laugh at it now, but they won't be laughing at it later. Is my military doomsday camper, if you will. But that's, you know, I'm promoting a new product called EMP Shield.
Right.
You know, I get a lot of questions. Folks ask me, well, why would I need something like that? Well, if the grid goes down, you can protect your infrastructure or your camper, your modern day vehicle. You know, you have to think, if you have inverters like yourself and I, and also generators, you know, this piece of equipment will protect everything that you have powered into the grid. Well, once the grid goes down, that's going to be nice to have, because all your main wiring, if this product does its job, which they tell me these folks out of Kansas with EMP Shield, they tell me that this product exceeds the specifications that it was built under. It will protect your electrical systems, such as your appliances, wiring in your house, even down to 12 volt in your vehicle. I have what you call a portable model. It's basically an EMP module with a plug to a 6-plug outlet. Everything plugged into that outlet is protected. It's quite remarkable.
Right. It's like a super sophisticated surge suppressor.
That's exactly correct.
Gotcha.
And they tested this product via Keystone Industries, Keystone compliance, if you will. And I think they tested this thing for 2 days, up to 100,000 amps of a mock EMP scenario. It's quite remarkable. They're mil-spec approved. They're listed under the UL, guidelines. So, I'm real excited to be an affiliate of it.
Well, I'm going to look into it, and I'll get in touch with you, Matthew. I may want to add one to my solar inverters and stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'd love to get you, because it would coincide with everything else that you offer as well on your website, Mr. Jesse, as far as your water purification, the Patriot food supply. Let me get this right. Alexa Pure water systems.
Right.
And
that's right.
That invention that you made is phenomenal. I'm going to have to get off my keister and order one myself here, old boy. That is, for the price.
Well, do
you
have an Alexa Pure Berkeley already?
Not yet.
Okay. Once you get it,
I'm planning on going on your website here real soon and getting one.
Well, Matthew, they're selling so fast that they're running out of them, and they're back ordered right now. But our invention, guys, it does fit both company water filters, but it's Matthew. We just designed it to improve the outflow rate of it, and thousands of people in the last 3 years now have gotten it, and we have no complaints. That's amazing. Just we build it here.
Yeah, it is amazing.
But it's a blessing too, because I built one for our system, and we decided to go ahead and manufacture it from that point because it works so well. But that's not a necessary evil. But let me tell you something that is new on our website, Matthew, not to run into just straight ads, is we have a new solar oven. It's compact, portable. It's not much bigger than a purse, but it will heat water up to 150 degrees with just a little bit of sunlight, which automatically they tell you to boil your water right after you have some kind of outage in your water system. But not only that, all of the freeze-dried food that you have, your friends, and I have, you need that warm water in just a few minutes. You open this purse and you can even put the contents like bread or anything like that in this glass tube, or your food if that needs cooking, or hot water for your coffee, or to boil water you're not sure about in just a few minutes. And they have that. It's on our website.
That's pretty amazing.
It's on our website at bpearthwatch.com, guys. I had to
come up with something kind of a redneck invention.
Okay.
Because that's the first thing my better half mentioned, Jesse, that was one of her stipulations to stay overnight in the Doomsday camper. She wanted hot water.
Well, I put it on boats, so it can be done. But you can do it. You can do it with you can do it solar, but you want to take your baths before it gets too late. When you still have hot water.
Yeah, I lost you, Jesse. I don't know if you can hear me. I can barely hear you, sir.
Matthew, I was saying you can go solar on your camper, but you don't want to wait till night times to take your shower. You put a solar water heater on the top of that camper.
Let me do this. I'll see if I can switch out here.
Yes, someone said hot water and coffee, and that's what this little is about. It's not even big as a purse. Yeah, I've got you, Matthew. Can you hear us?
Okay, I can hear you better now. Now you're going to hear some more background.
That's okay.
I've got a studio set of earphones, but the volume was pretty low. But yeah, as I was saying, I'm gonna have to check that out. What I did was I got me a piece of PVC pipe, oh boy, and capped both ends and put it on top of my camper where the sun would hit it.
Right.
Just to, I don't know if it works enough, but my better half thinks it works. So
well, that's
good enough to get her in there.
It will, Matthew. How many times you picked a water hose up outside that was hot water in it? From the sunlight.
It'll hold up to 20 gallons.
Yeah, there you go. You can do it out of PVC or copper, or you can even this PEX pipe now. They're putting it in coils and painting it black and in a wood box with a glass shield, Matthew, as hot water. So you definitely want hot water, but you can also come off the radiator on your truck the way you do a boat,
Man, I come off of that K5 Blazer, I'm going to be giving some people some third-degree burns.
Hey, listen, are you ever going to do a video and let us see that truck? I've heard about it now for a month or two.
Yeah. You and I are kind of like some things I talk about, some things I keep under wraps.
Yeah.
Now, I did put it in a video about a month or so ago, because I was just so blessed and happy to have able to, to get it, I guess. But I do need to do some more videos on it, I guess. Well,
not if you're trying to stay on the down low with it. I didn't mean that, but if you're not, then if you put it up on YouTube, you may know, everybody in the world may know, well, there's Matthew, and let's get that truck because it's got everything we need in it.
Right. I did take my little boy. We went off-roading the other day when I was home last weekend. And, man, I got to tell you, we must have went through a 9-foot deep incline or kind of a ditch, Jesse, and that thing actually amazed me. I went back there with the four-wheelers. They've got this little off-road trail close to my house where the power lines run, and they weren't used to seeing that, oh boy. They used to seeing just four-wheelers back there. But I had a guy's eyes as probably big as this phone screen looking at me. Where in the heck did you come from?
That's a good camper then, if he'll get you in those places, because it's like Matthew, if you travel out west, Arizona or somewhere, in a truck, like I go in my Tahoe, I can go on those back roads,
That's right.
and up in the mountains where other with regular vehicles can't go. And that's where I like to go because you can get away from everything. But yours, it sounds like it'll go a lot further than a Tahoe.
Well, the only reason is I still get strange looks from the better half every time she walks outside. It's pretty revealing. It's pretty high. It's got aggressive tires on it. Not your everyday vehicle, but it serves the purpose, and that's to. And I'm talking to the audience just as you and I talk, folks. If you don't, Jesse and I both we hit it off right away a couple of years ago. Jesse gave me and I gotta say it. You gave me that shout out. I'll never forget it. You took me in, and we did that radio show. We always had a common ground for reaching out to folks, getting right with God. And as my best friend, and I call him the 400-pound gorilla, he turned me on to prepping in 2009, Jesse, because he went through it during Katrina.
Right.
He was prepared. Other folks weren't. And he emphasized that to me. He talked about Ruby Ridge. He talked about Waco. Lo and behold, he talked about the mural building bombing, which later on I reached out to Cody Snodgrass, and now we've kind of become friends. It's been an amazing journey, and it all started on your show, boy.
Well, that's what it's supposed to do, Matt. That's why with these radio shows are good, because we talk to different people. You talk to a lot more than I do, and so, but you get the word out like that, and more people kind of start paying attention. And my whole deal is just kind of watching and letting people know what I see and maybe what you can do about it.
Well, we might have to do that after the storm season. We might have to start another podcast radio show, you and I get together, and because I think it's going to be needed more than ever. That's getting right with God. Folks, I hope you're listening. Having a plan, getting prepared, and protecting you and yours, because we've talked about this before. I guess this would be a good way to end this segment, Mr. Jesse. People don't realize they need to start getting prepared if they haven't right away, because once the light switch goes out, it's over with.
Yep. The Bible says if the master of the house knew when the thief would come, he would have not left it to be broken into. You don't know. It's going to come in a minute you don't think it is.
Absolutely. I can't encourage folks enough to, it tells you in the Bible, if you look real hard and understand what you're reading, there's all sorts of prepping phrases right in the Bible.
There is there, Matthew, and folks, there's a lot of information, that you can get on you can find books on food that you would never think, if you were in the wilderness, that you could eat or cook or use for medicinal purposes. And those books are there. There's several that my Patriot Supply has on our website, and I have them on my shelf behind me now as we speak. It's just survival with nothing, what plants you can and can't eat, and how you can prepare them without poisoning yourself. And those are life-saving things too. And Joey, we appreciate that a lot. Thank you very much. But it's biblical in many other chapters than the one I talked about. You're not going to know the moment. If Christ said, I don't even know that moment, only my Father in heaven. Now that's talking about a bigger thing, but that's how it's going to come about. I mean, we knew Katrina was coming. There wasn't a whole lot we could do about it. Get away from the coast, and we did. Still 120 miles inland. 2 weeks, no power, no water, nothing. You couldn't go to the stores. Their doors wouldn't even open. The cash registers wouldn't open. You couldn't buy gas. And we knew that was a temporary situation, as rough as it was. But so people had a certain restraint, Matt, because we knew that the power company was working hard and everything, and everyone was working. Our community worked very hard together. But when it goes and there's something more than a temporary shutdown, like a hurricane, then people will panic. And what will happen, like right now, you look at the left and you see the Democrats and you see Antifa. But what will happen is the donor pass syndrome. Guys, if you're not familiar with that, most of you are. Matt, you've heard of it. When the wagon trains were going over Donor Pass, going west, got froze in, and the ones that lived ate the ones that died. So there's a whole new mentality that kicks in survival. It could be your best friends and your neighbors that are now more dangerous than any enemy that you have before that period, simply not because they're evil, but because of the survival instinct. When the man's front of his stomach meets the back of his stomach, this panic button hits, and they will eat. They will take your food. Again, that won't be because they're evil or intended to be evil. It's because you got a zombie horde that didn't prepare. And so it's going to be a lot more than you think. That you may have a lot of folks that are prepared in certain ways, but if they don't have food, then you're going to have a lot of trouble on your hands. Matthew, what do you think?
Absolutely. You're going to have folks that are going to panic, especially young mothers with young children. I just, I can't even hardly think about the thought process that's going to go through, envisioning a mother with hungry children, the length that they'll go to feed their children.
And what the fathers will do to feed their children that have, that are armed. So that's going to be the chaos that they want brought about. How do they do it? They destroy a nation within. They pollute the water. They weather manipulate, kill the grains, burn the forest off, take the land, and sell everything to China. And they create the chaos that we're talking about. But it could be natural. It could be a solar flare that knocks the grid out. China may never get to make a move, but it's going to be the same end result of panic and chaos. It will be a tidal wave of chaos. And if you don't ride that wave out, if you cannot bug out enough in a safe zone, then to get out of that tidal wave, you're going to have a hard time making it, because you're going to have chaos, you're going to have panic, you're going to have people start to get hungry, and you're going to see massive riots, looting, and zombie movie type things. But the people that are away from that will survive it.
Well, on that note, Jesse, do you think the Lusitanic controllers are willing to, as we've said before, burn the house down before they see another 4 years of President Trump?
Sure.
That's the chatter I'm hearing.
They will. They look at what they're doing now. I mean, Matthew, I have no doubt they don't want another 4 years of Trump. We saw in the video today, China doesn't think there's going to be another 4 years of Trump. I think there will be if Secret Service can keep him out of harm's way. I think that we can get him another 4 years in there. But things are going to be hell. He's going to have to come in and step in, Matthew, with executive orders in order to keep the last nation on this planet free, the only beacon of hope to the rest of the world free. He's going to have to step in. And I don't want to misquote it. It may be Article 3, Section 8, to where he can convene Congress or he can adjourn Congress and tell them to go home until he calls them back under a national emergency. And then all of it's in his hands, much like martial law. And so if he's out and if he does make it 4 more years, at the end of that, if we don't know what we will have, but if it goes Democrat or it goes heavy left in any manner, then it's going to go downhill really quick.
Rapidly.
Yep.
Do you see any of these high profile arrests happening before the 2020 election?
If they're going to happen, they need to, Matthew. We saw the only thing we're seeing is we see Epstein, and really they kind of took out a major cog in the wheel right there. You know it, because he was connected with Israel, England, the U.S., Saudi, Australia, name it. He was connected. So they took a major player that they knew was a weak link in the chain. They had been propped up by the deep state in order for them to do their deeds. And so, he was almost killed or almost killed himself in jail a week or so ago. And so I don't know. They can't let that guy testify. And now we have the Epstein papers come out today. And your people are saying now that, and in panic, that Trump can't win in 2020. It's more than you can keep up with.
Well, you've got the lawsuit now between Epstein and also Ghislaine Maxwell.
Right.
There's a lot of worry on the left just with that. What's going to develop and come out.
Yeah, there was one person that was involved in this pedo Hollywood California deal that has really shut his pencil neck mouth in the last couple weeks since Epstein got took down. Have you noticed we haven't seen a lot of headlines from Pencil Neck?
It talking about
Shifty Schiff.
Yep.
Normally he's right there with Maxine screaming impeach or something, no, but man, he's kind of backed the hell up since his buddy Epstein went down, because remember a few years ago, he was instigated in some of that Hotel California child trafficking and human trafficking.
Yep.
And so maybe he might. And so I don't know, Trump let that happen. And I'm not for red flag laws at all. I just think what I was saying is I think that's what they're going to try to move to. But it looks like to me Trump is trying to push it. He's saying basically I'm going to put it in the hands of the Congress. And then if he doesn't like it, he won't sign it. But that's going to throw the heat off of him by the Democrat rat dogs that in their packs towards Congress for a minute, and he can get some more done. Is what I'm hoping.
I'm hoping as well, and I'm hoping that he holds his campaign promises as far as the Second Amendment.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, Matthew. I think he will. The only thing he's really ever done was sign the deal with the bunk stocks, right? And a lot of people thought that was a downhill, a slippery slope. But in a way, I don't think it's going to matter if we have bump stocks one way or the other if the Patriots need to stand up. Do you?
No, you're exactly right about that. My only issue, bump stocks aren't really relevant. They weren't that great of a item in the beginning. My view on it is, once you put a gun law on the books, it's hard to reverse, and it opens the door for more.
Right.
Now, I'm probably going to make a few folks mad when I say this, but, Donald J. Trump also talked about he never liked suppressors, silencers, as he claimed.
Right.
You remember when he first got elected that Eric Trump, now both of his sons are avid gun owners. I don't think they're going to let their dad, President Trump, do very much.
No, man.
On gun control.
No, NRA has already let him know too. This ain't cool, dude. And he's catching it from not just the NRA, but all the gun, groups. All the patriot groups are saying no, no, no. And like I said, I think the bump stock may have been just to throw the dogs a bone. And I think the speech on Monday after the shootings, or whatever day it was, I think Monday, was to throw the dogs a bone, because he knows that they're in a panic attack against him. He sees what they're doing to the Republicans, and I think it caught him off guard some. And again, I haven't heard him really go into red flag again. He mentioned it the first time. Only thing I know now is expanding that background check. But I just don't see, I don't.
No matter what he does, it's not going to
right.
appease the left.
Right. Nothing will until they have their hands on all of our guns and they have power, and Hillary's flying her monkeys around the castle headed to Mississippi, Matthew, to get you. That's when they'll be happy. And what's so bad is Hillary will backstab every one of those Democrats if she gets a chance. And, when I say Hillary, she may not be here at that point, but that group, let me put it that way, any of that group, it's going to be hell to pay. And that will start the Civil War, is if the Democrats go back into power, because they'll either have killed the president or they will have cheated the polls. And I think that's going to be a major turning point right there. And for a lot of reasons. One is, we know that Trump and his administration, Matthew, from the Alabama elections in 2016 or 20, whenever it was, that they knew that there was a lot of cheating going on the Democratic side, and they caught them in a lot of ways. So the Republicans don't have an excuse to let us see another 2018 election where these votes keep coming in for 6 or 8 weeks and overturning elections. If that goes
well,
on,
I was going to ask you, did you see this latest headline of this Southport foiled, supposedly attempt, and you see how this young man was dressed? I haven't heard anybody else mention this, but
at the Walmart
firefighter.
Yeah, at the Walmart.
Right. Did you see how they had this fella dressed?
Yep.
He had a hat on very similar to the same kind of hats that I wear. It's almost as if they're trying to promote an image.
The Patriot image. Yeah, it's the Hitler thing. Demonize the Patriots. Demonize the Republicans. Demonize them so that then tell the public it's fine to attack them. And so, and that's why the dude wasn't shot up, Matthew. He was a player, an actor.
Yep. And if you read that manifesto,
I mean, they're taking him into custody. He's walking down the hill, still got his rifle on and stuff. What law enforcement? Tell me they're not going to have you on the gun on your face. If you move, we're going to blow you away. You know, don't touch that weapon. He's walking down, rifle around him, ammo around his neck, and he's not full of holes. After those shootings, that's staged. There's no way around it. I mean, just to demonize the Patriot movement, the Proud Boys, us, the Patriots, the people that love our country, they are in the Hitler demonization attack on everyone that does not go along with their policies.
Agenda.
Yep.
Yep.
But luckily, and Matthew, you're talking about history there. That's why they wanted all the statues taken down everywhere, so the young people would not remember history and repeat it. You know, it's amazing. But the attacks doubled in 2016 when Trump won it.
Yes, sir. Well, I got to go back to work, old boy, and I, as always, appreciate you having me come on again and having a discussion. I guess we'll have to continue to do these and keep our eyes on the happenings, I guess, because it looks like we're in for a crazy ride, old boy.
Yeah, we are, Matthew. Then that's what it's all about. Just be situationally aware of what's going on. Keep your powder dry, guys. And Matthew, guys, if you don't know, Matthew's YouTube channel is Truth Not Fiction Matters. And don't you have a website, truthnotfictionmatters.com, Matt?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And so check that out on YouTube and his website. Matthew does videos on a regular basis. I think most of my people know who you are, Matthew, but the people that come in the archives, again, Matthew is a Patriot, ex-Coast Guard, if I'm right. If not, is that right, Matthew? Coast Guard served there, and now is a tugboat captain on the mighty Mississippi River. So, and a Patriot. So, guys, check his information out on his channel. And Matthew, we will be doing more shows. And I'm going to add another thing to my studio and try to get you in Skype, and we can get some of the background stuff out and where I can plug you straight in. But I appreciate you coming, and I appreciate all 287 of the people now that are in here coming to the show. You just don't know how. We have one thing in mind, and that's getting as many people around us as a large group awakened to the problems that are coming. And it's common sense. But if you don't know it's coming, you're not going to be prepared for it. But again, Matthew, thank you. And we'll be talking, guys. We've been up hours about open now over. We've got a minute or so. I'm looking over in the chat. And if you got any questions, I'll read them there. But thank you, everyone. Matthew, thank you. And give me a shout out tomorrow sometimes. When are you going to be back in?
Be around the 14th.
Around the 14th. You got about 5 days coming. 4 days tomorrow. Well, that's good, Matthew. Just be safe and keep it between the banks and off the bottom.
Yes, sir.
You got it, guys. Everyone have a great evening. Watch for updates coming up over the weekend. Hey, Deb. Hey, everyone out there. We appreciate you very much. Hey, Joey. Thank you. Guys, have a good night. It's a heads up. Be safe.